Danny Morris stood near Gate 47 at the Kepler 442 space station. His hands were shaking a little, but he tried to stay calm. Around his legs, 3 small alien creatures pressed close to him. They looked like large cats, but they had 6 legs instead of 4. Their fur was silver and soft. Their eyes were big and golden, still wet from crying. These were Vorath cubs. Just 30 minutes ago, Danny had pulled them from a burning docking bay. Their parents had died in the accident, sucked out into space when the emergency doors failed. Danny had been walking past when he heard the alarm. While everyone else ran away, he ran toward the danger. He grabbed the 3 cubs and dragged them to safety behind a working door. Now the cubs would not leave his side. A tall alien with a hard shell walked up to Danny. His name was Kryn, and he was the chief of station security. His voice came out flat and cold through the translator box on his chest. "Sir, you need to move to your gate," Kryn said. "Your ship to Earth leaves soon. The cubs will go to a processing center. We will send them to a Vorath colony world." Danny looked down at the 3 small beings. The oldest one, a female, had her small paws wrapped tight around his boot. She was shaking. Her 2 brothers stood on each side of Danny, looking scared and lost. "They just watched their parents die," Danny said quietly. "Give them a few minutes. They are scared. The rules say we must process unaccompanied minors right away," Kryn replied. He waved at 2 security officers. "We will take them now." The officers walked forward. The female cub made a low, deep growl. It was a scary sound, too deep for such a small creature. Her brothers moved quickly, forming a triangle around Danny's legs. Their fur stood up, making them look bigger. They showed their small teeth. The security officers stopped walking. Danny held up his hands. "Everyone calm down. These are just scared kids. Let me walk with them to wherever they need to go. They trust me." Kryn's mouth parts clicked together in a way that sounded annoyed. "Your ship to Earth leaves in 20 minutes. You will miss it. Then I will catch the next ship," Danny said. His voice was firm and strong. "I will not leave these kids scared and alone." The security chief looked at Danny for a long moment. Then he made his decision. "Fine, but they cannot go with you to Earth. Vorath laws say orphaned cubs must be handled in a special ceremony. They must go to Processing Center 7 right now." Danny nodded slowly. He bent down so he was at the same level as the cubs. "Hey, little ones. I need to take you somewhere safe. A place where people will take care of you." The female cub made a soft, questioning sound. Danny wished he could understand what she was saying, but his translator did not work with young Vorath speech. He could only hope his gentle voice would help them feel safe. "Let us go together," he said, standing up, nice and slow. When Danny started walking, the 3 cubs moved with him. They stayed close, never leaving his side. People at the station stopped and stared. This was strange. Vorath cubs were known to be difficult and sometimes violent when upset, but these 3 followed the human like he was their father. Kryn and 4 security officers walked behind them, keeping a careful distance. The walk to Processing Center 7 would take them through 3 different sections of the station. They would pass Danny's departure gate. His ship would be gone by the time he got the cubs to safety, but Danny did not care. These small creatures trusted him. That felt important, like something he could not ignore. As they walked past Gate 52, a group of Vorath traders noticed them. One old Vorath with black marks in his silver fur stepped forward carefully. His black marks meant he was important in Vorath society. "Human," the old Vorath said. His voice was rough and deep through the translator. "I am Elder Voth. Those cubs follow you by choice?" "Yes, sir," Danny answered. "Their parents died in the accident. I pulled the cubs out of the fire." Elder Voth's eyes went wide. His ears pressed flat against his head, which Danny had learned meant respect. "You saved them during the breach? When the doors failed? Anyone would have done the same thing." "No," Voth said firmly. "Many species would not risk the danger. Vorath cubs can be aggressive when they panic. You could have been badly hurt." He looked down at the 3 youngsters pressed against Danny's legs. "May I come closer?" Danny nodded. "Go ahead." But when Elder Voth moved closer, all 3 cubs growled together. They showed their small fangs. The elder stopped right away. He looked surprised. "Remarkable," he said softly. "They have bonded to you. They see you as their protector, their guardian. This has never happened with a non-Vorath before, never." Behind them, Security Chief Kryn cleared his throat. "Regardless of bonding, the cubs must be processed. Lieutenant Morris has been helpful, but he has his own ship to catch." I already missed it, Danny said. I am seeing this through to the end. Elder Voth studied Danny for a long time. Then he spoke in fast Vorath to the cubs. The female cub answered with a series of chirps and rumbling sounds. They talked back and forth for a while before Voth turned back to Danny. The eldest, the female, says you carried them from the fire and the void. She says you did not hesitate. You did not fear their teeth or claws. She says her mother's last word was a command to survive, and you made that possible. Danny felt his throat get tight. I just did what needed to be done. That is the mark of true honor, Voth said. I will walk with you to processing. The cubs should have familiar faces with them. He looked at Kryn. If the security chief allows it. Kryn's mouth parts clicked again, the sound of frustration. Go ahead. But Lieutenant Morris, understand that you are now very delayed. The next Earthship does not leave for 3 days. I understand, Danny said. He looked down at the cubs. Come on, little ones. Let us get you somewhere safe. They started walking again. More Vorath began to notice. Word spread quickly through the station's communication networks. By the time they reached the second section of the station, a small crowd had formed. Most were Vorath, but some were other alien species. All of them kept their distance, watching the strange sight of 3 Vorath cubs following a human through the station. The female cub suddenly stopped. Danny stopped too. She was staring out a big window that showed the docking bay where her parents had died. The emergency force fields were still up. Teams of workers were fixing the broken parts. Danny bent down beside her. I am so sorry, he said softly. I wish I could have saved them too. The female cub turned her big golden eyes to him. She made a soft, sad sound. Then she pressed her small head against his hand. Her brothers did the same, looking for comfort. Elder Voth watched with deep emotion on his face. In our culture, he said quietly, when cubs lose their parents, they are raised by the clan. But when they bond like this so completely and so quickly, our ancient traditions speak of something deeper. They speak of a guardian chosen by fate itself. Danny looked up at him. What does that mean? It means, young human, that you may have just become part of something far greater than a simple rescue. As they stood there with the cubs pressed against Danny for comfort, Security Chief Kryn got a message on his communication device. His face was hard to read because he was an alien, but somehow he looked surprised. Lieutenant Morris, he said slowly, I have just been told that the Vorath ambassador to the Coalition Council wants to speak with you. Right now. Danny stood up straight. His heart felt heavy. An ambassador getting involved could not be good news. About what? About those cubs, Kryn answered. And about what happens next. Danny looked down at the 3 small creatures who trusted him so completely. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. He would not let them down. Whatever came next, he would face it with them. The walk to the ambassador's rooms took them deeper into the diplomatic section of the station. The hallways here were nicer, with polished floors and decorative walls. The cubs stayed close to Danny with every step. Their small paws made soft sounds on the smooth floor. Elder Voth walked with them, sometimes speaking in low voices to other Vorath they passed. The looks Danny got from these Vorath ranged from curious to deeply respectful, though he did not understand why. Security Chief Kryn led them to a set of beautiful doors carved with detailed patterns. The ambassador is inside, he said. Only Lieutenant Morris and the cubs are requested to enter. I will wait here, Elder Voth said. He put a paw on Danny's shoulder. Speak the truth, human. That is all you need to do. Danny nodded and walked toward the doors. They opened without sound. The room beyond was large and decorated to look like a natural cave. Soft lights made it look like sunlight coming through tree leaves. On a raised platform sat the Vorath ambassador. She was large and impressive. Her silver fur had complicated black patterns that showed her age and wisdom. Lieutenant Danny Morris, the ambassador said. Her voice was rich and careful. I am Ambassador Zela of the Vorath High Council. Please come forward. Danny entered and the cubs followed right away. As they got close to the ambassador, Danny felt the female cub press even harder against his leg. Zela's eyes watched the movement. I see the reports were correct. The cubs have bonded to you. She came down from the platform, moving with surprising grace. Tell me, Lieutenant, do you understand what happened in that docking bay? There was a breach, ma'am, Danny said. Emergency doors failed. The cubs' parents pushed them toward safety before they were pulled into space. I grabbed the cubs and got them behind a working door. You ran toward the breach, Zila corrected him. While others fled to safety, you ran toward certain death to save children who were not your own species. Danny shifted uncomfortably. They were kids. I could not just leave them. Zila studied him for a long moment. Do you know what the Vorath word for guardian is, Lieutenant? No, ma'am. Kresheva. It means one who stands between death and the innocent. It is a sacred title in our culture. It is earned through deeds not given lightly. She moved closer, and Danny noticed the cubs did not react with fear as they had with Elder Voth. These cubs have lost their parents. By our laws, they should be taken to a Vorath colony world and raised by the clan. It is tradition. It is proper. Danny felt his heart sink. I understand, ma'am. I just wanted to make sure they got where they needed to be safely. However, Zella continued, there is another tradition. One far older and rarely used. When cubs bond to someone as these three have bonded to you, when they choose their guardian, our ancient laws give them that choice. She paused. Hope, Brave, and Scout, as you have named them, have chosen you. Danny blinked in surprise. I do not understand. I cannot take them. I am military. I am being sent to a research station on Europa. There are no facilities for dependents and definitely not for alien cubs. Which is why, Zella said calmly, I have spent the last 30 minutes talking with your Earth government and the Vorath High Council. Both have agreed to a special arrangement given these unusual circumstances. What kind of arrangement? Zella made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared in the air. You will be reassigned to the Coalition Embassy on Earth. You will serve as a liaison officer. Your quarters will be provided with proper accommodations for Vorath young. You will receive training in Vorath child-rearing practices. A Vorath cultural advisor will be assigned to help you. In return, you will raise these cubs as your own until they reach maturity at age 16. Danny stared at her, then looked down at the three small beings pressed against his legs. You want me to adopt them? We are asking if you will accept the role of Kresheva, of guardian. It is not a small responsibility. Vorath cubs are challenging. They have strong wills and require firm guidance. But they have chosen you, and to deny that choice would traumatize them even more. Zila's expression softened. I knew their mother, Lieutenant. She was a friend. If she could speak now, I believe she would approve of this choice. Danny bent down, looking at each of the cubs in turn. The female stared back at him with those large golden eyes so full of trust and loss. Her brothers flanked her, their small bodies tense with uncertainty. I do not know anything about raising Vorath cubs, Danny said honestly. You know how to protect them, Zila replied. You know how to put their needs before your own. The rest can be learned, she paused. But you must decide now. If you decline, we will proceed with traditional placement. The cubs will adapt in time, but they will remember being separated from the one they chose. Danny thought of his plans, his career path, his life carefully mapped out. Then he looked at the female cub who had wrapped her small paws around his arm and felt something change in his chest. Okay, he said quietly. Yes, I will do it. The female cub chirped, a sound of relief and joy. Her brothers added their voices, and suddenly all three were climbing on Danny. Their small tails wagged fast. Despite everything, Danny found himself laughing. Zila watched with clear approval. Then it is decided. Welcome to parenthood, Lieutenant Morris. May you prove worthy of the trust these children have placed in you. I will do my best, Danny promised. That, Zila said, is all anyone can ask. Over the next few hours, Danny met with various officials who explained his new assignment. There were forms to sign, procedures to understand, and protocols to memorize. Through it all, the cubs stayed with him. They seemed to sense that something important was happening, that their lives were changing in a big way. A Vorath female with rust-colored fur arrived in the afternoon. Lieutenant Morris, I am Instructor Kayla. Ambassador Zella has assigned me to help you prepare for your new role. Thank you, Danny said. The cubs immediately moved into their defensive positions around him. As you can see, they are very protective. Kayla's expression was warm. That is good. It means they feel strongly about keeping you safe. She spoke in Vorath to the cubs. The female answered cautiously, and a brief conversation followed. The female is very intelligent, Kayla observed. She tells me you have been kind to them, that you make them feel safe. I am trying, Danny said. You have good instincts. Kayla spent the next 2 hours teaching Danny basic things about Vorath cubs. She showed him how to groom their fur properly. She explained what foods they needed. She helped him understand what their body language meant. They will test you, Kayla warned. Vorath cubs at this age are learning about boundaries. They will push against the rules to see if you truly mean what you say. I can handle that, Danny said, though inside he felt uncertain. Kayla smiled. I believe you can. But remember, being firm does not mean being harsh. You must correct bad behavior while maintaining the bond of trust. As evening approached, Danny was given temporary quarters on the station. The room was basic but had been quickly modified to include proper sleeping nests for the cubs. Kayla stayed with them for dinner, continuing to teach Danny about Vorath customs and needs. The female cub ate carefully, watching Danny the whole time. Her brothers were less cautious, eating quickly and messily. When one of them, the smaller male, tried to climb on the table, Danny gently but firmly lifted him down. No climbing on the table, Danny said, looking the cub in the eyes. That is not okay. The cub's ears flattened and he made a soft apologetic sound. Danny softened his expression and gently scratched behind the cub's ears. Good, thank you for understanding. Kayla nodded with approval. Well done. You correct the behavior but do not damage the relationship. Many new guardians struggle with that balance. After dinner, Kayla left with a promise to return the next day. Danny was alone with the cubs for the first time since the accident. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Okay, little ones, he said. Let us figure out this sleeping arrangement. He showed them the nests that had been prepared. The cubs sniffed them cautiously. The female seemed interested, but when Danny moved toward his own bed, she followed immediately. Her brothers did the same. You want to sleep with me? Danny asked. The female chirped and climbed onto his bed. All right then. I guess we are all sleeping together. That night, Danny lay awake for a long time. The three cubs were piled around him, their small bodies warm and trusting. He could feel their breathing, slow and steady. The weight of what he had agreed to felt enormous. He was responsible for 3 lives now. 3 alien children who had lost everything and chosen him to be their guardian. He did not speak their language fluently. He did not know their customs deeply. He had never raised children of any species, but as he lay there in the dark listening to the cubs sleep peacefully beside him, Danny made a silent promise. He would learn. He would adapt. He would do whatever it took to give these 3 cubs a good life. They had lost their parents in the most terrible way, but they would not lose their childhood, not if he had anything to say about it. The female cub stirred in her sleep and pressed closer to Danny. Her small paw rested on his chest, right over his heart. Danny put his hand gently over her paw. I will keep you safe, he whispered. All 3 of you. I promise. In the morning, they would begin the journey to Earth. Danny would start. 3 days later, Danny found himself on the Coalition transport ship Starbound Express, headed for Earth. The diplomatic paperwork had been processed with surprising speed, though he suspected Ambassador Zella had pulled important strings to make it happen. His new assignment papers identified him as a cultural liaison officer, a position he had never trained for and barely understood. But none of that mattered as much as the 3 cubs currently exploring their cabin. Careful with that, Danny called as the smaller male cub tried to climb the wall-mounted entertainment console. The young Vorath dropped down, his ears flattening in what Danny had learned was mild embarrassment. The cabin was larger than standard rooms. It had been modified to include proper Vorath sleeping nests, specially made food dispensers, and reinforced furniture. The Coalition had spared no expense, which Danny found both reassuring and slightly overwhelming. The female cub padded over to him, carrying a data tablet in her mouth. She had discovered that the tablet could display images and had spent the last hour making Danny show her pictures of Earth. Want to see more? Danny asked, taking the tablet. He pulled up images of forests, mountains, and oceans. The female's eyes widened with each new picture, and she made excited chirping sounds that brought her brothers running. A chime at the door interrupted them. Come in, Danny called. The door slid open to reveal a Vorath female with rust-colored fur. Lieutenant Morris, I am Instructor Kayla. Ambassador Zella assigned me to help with your transition. Thank you for coming, Danny said, standing up. The cubs immediately moved to defensive positions around him, a behavior that was becoming routine. As you can see, we are still figuring things out. Kayla's expression was warm. They protect you well. That is good. She entered slowly, speaking in Vorath to the cubs. The female responded cautiously and a brief conversation followed. The female is very intelligent, Kayla observed. She tells me you have been kind to them, that you show them pictures of your homeworld. I want them to know where we are going, Danny said. I do not want them to be afraid. You have good instincts. Kayla settled onto one of the reinforced chairs. But there is much you need to learn. Vorath cubs at this age are in their formative period. They learn through play, through challenge, and through clear boundaries. They will test you, Lieutenant. Often, as if to prove her point, the smaller male suddenly leaped onto Danny's back, using his claws to climb. Danny winced but did not cry out. Firmly but gently remove him, Kayla instructed. Show him that is not acceptable behavior. Danny reached back and carefully detached the cub, bringing him around to face him. No climbing, people, he said firmly, looking the cub in the eyes. Not okay. The cub's ears flattened and he made a soft, apologetic sound. Danny softened his expression and gently scratched behind the cub's ears. Good, thank you for understanding. Kayla nodded with approval. Well done. You correct the behavior but maintain the bond. Many new guardians struggle with that balance. She spent the next hour teaching Danny basic Vorath child-rearing principles. She demonstrated proper grooming techniques, explained dietary needs in detail, and helped him understand the cub's body language more deeply. They will face challenges on Earth, Kayla warned. Humans are not used to Vorath, especially young ones. There will be fear, misunderstanding, perhaps even hatred. I will handle it, Danny said, watching the two male cubs wrestle playfully while the female observed from her nest. Nobody is going to mistreat these kids, not while I am around. That fierce protectiveness will serve you well, Kayla said. But remember, Lieutenant, you cannot shield them from everything. They must learn to navigate a world that is not their own. Your job is to give them the tools to do so. Over the next 2 days of travel, Danny threw himself into learning everything he could. Kayla proved to be an excellent teacher, patient but thorough. The cubs seemed to understand that Danny was trying his best. They became slightly less clingy, more willing to explore their surroundings, though they always kept him in sight. Danny learned that Vorath cubs needed to exercise daily, or they became destructive. He learned that they were highly social and needed constant interaction. He learned that discipline had to be immediate and consistent but never harsh. He learned 100 small things about fur care, temperature preferences, and social behaviors. The female cub, whom Danny had started calling Hope in his mind, was particularly quick to learn. She figured out how to operate the cabin's environmental controls within a day. She understood when Danny was teaching her something, versus when he was just talking. Her brothers, whom Danny thought of as Brave and Scout, were less focused but equally endearing. Brave lived up to his name by fearlessly exploring every corner of the cabin. He was the first to try new foods, the first to investigate strange sounds, the first to approach Kayla without Danny's reassurance. Scout was quieter, more observant. He watched everything carefully, learning from his siblings' mistakes without making his own. On the final night before reaching Earth, Danny sat with all 3 cubs in his sleeping area. Hope rested her head on his lap while Brave and Scout curled up on either side. Tomorrow we reach home, Danny said softly. My home, but I want it to be your home too. He stroked Hope's fur gently. I know I am not Vorath. I know I cannot replace your parents. But I promise you, I will do everything in my power to keep you safe, to help you grow, to give you good lives. Hope looked up at him and chirped softly. Then she did something unexpected. She placed one small paw over his heart and made a low, rumbling sound that Kayla had taught him meant trust and deep affection. I know, Danny whispered. I love you too. All 3 of you. He had not planned to say those words. They just came out natural and true, and as soon as he said them, Danny realized they were completely accurate. In just a few days, these 3 small beings had become incredibly important to him. The thought of anything bad happening to them made his chest hurt. Brave made a soft chirping sound and pressed closer. Scout did the same. They might not understand all of Danny's words, but they understood his tone. They understood his feelings. When Kayla stopped by for a final check before they reached Earth, she found Danny asleep with all 3 cubs piled on top of him. Their small bodies rose and fell in peaceful rhythm with his breathing. Kayla stood in the doorway for a long moment watching them. Kresheva indeed, she murmured quietly, and left them to their rest. The next morning, Danny woke to find Hope staring at him from inches away. Her golden eyes were wide and alert. "Good morning," Danny said, rubbing his eyes. "Ready for the big day?" Hope chirped and licked his face. It was a Vorath gesture of affection that Kayla had explained. Danny laughed and gently pushed her back. Okay. Let us get everyone fed and ready." The morning passed in a blur of activity. The cubs needed to be groomed properly for arrival. Danny needed to put on his dress uniform for the official greeting at the station. Kayla came by to help and to give final instructions. "Remember," she said as they prepared to disembark, "Earth will be strange for them. There will be many humans, strange smells, different sounds. They may become nervous or defensive. Stay calm. They will follow your lead." "I understand," Danny said. Kayla placed a paw on his shoulder. "You're doing well, Danny Morris. Better than most would do in your situation. The cubs are fortunate to have found you." "I am the fortunate one," Danny replied, looking down at Hope. "Brave and scout. They gave me something I did not even know I needed." As the ship docked at Earth's primary coalition orbital station, Danny felt his nerves increase. This was it. The beginning of his new life. The beginning of the cubs' new life. Everything was about to change. Hope pressed against his leg, sensing his tension. Danny took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He reached down and gently scratched behind her ears. "It is okay," he said, as much to himself as to her. "We are going to be okay. All of us together." The airlock opened and they stepped out into the arrival corridor. Danny walked with his head high, the three cubs in their now familiar formation around his legs. Other travelers stopped and stared. Some pointed. Some whispered to each other. But Danny ignored them all. He had a job to do. He had 3 children to protect and raise. Whatever came next, he would face it head on. Because that was what a guardian did. That was what a Kreshva did. And Danny Morris, former research station officer, current cultural liaison, and brand new father to 3 alien cubs, was determined to be worthy of that title. Earth's primary coalition orbital station was even busier than the Kepler station had been. Danny walked down the arrival corridor with Hope, Brave, and Scout in their now familiar formation around his legs. Other travelers gave them a wide space, some staring openly at the unusual group. Some looked curious. Some looked nervous. A few looked hostile. The cubs had been nervous during the final approach to Earth. They sensed Danny's own tension about bringing them to his home world. He had comforted them as best he could, but the truth was he had no idea how this would actually work. The briefing material said his quarters in the Earth Coalition Embassy complex in Geneva were ready. They said his new position was waiting. But the reality of raising 3 alien cubs in a human world was starting to feel very real and very scary. They reached the customs checkpoint, where a human official looked up from his screen. He did a double take when he saw the cubs. Then he checked his tablet with a confused expression. "Lieutenant Daniel Morris?" the official asked. "That is me," Danny confirmed. "And these are the Vorath miners listed on your entry documents?" "Yes, sir." Hope, Brave, and Scout. The official studied the cubs with obvious uncertainty. "We have never processed Vorath juveniles before. Are they dangerous?" "They are kids," Danny said firmly. "Scared kids who have been through trauma. Please do not make this harder than it needs to be." The official nodded slowly and stamped the documents. "Welcome home, Lieutenant. Good luck." They proceeded through the checkpoint and into the station proper. Danny's plan was to catch the shuttle down to Geneva, where an embassy representative was supposed to meet them. But as they entered the main concourse, a commotion erupted near the station's central plaza. A group of protesters had gathered. They held signs with slogans like "Earth for Humans" and "No Alien Dependence." Danny's heart sank. He had known there would be some resistance to the coalition's increasing integration policies, but he had hoped to avoid confrontation on their first day. "Let us go around," he muttered, steering the cubs toward a different route, but Hope had stopped. Her ears were up and alert. She was staring at something in the crowd. Danny followed her gaze and saw what had caught her attention. A human child, maybe 6 years old, stood alone in the middle of the crowd. She was crying. Her parents were nowhere in sight, and the crowd of protesters surged around her, not noticing the small, frightened girl. "Stay here," Danny told the cubs, but Hope was already moving. She pushed through the crowd with surprising speed. Brave and Scout immediately followed their sister. "No, wait," Danny called, rushing after them. This was exactly the kind of situation he had been warned about. The cubs were still traumatized, still unpredictable in high-stress situations. If they hurt someone, if there was an incident, everything could fall apart. He pushed through the protesters, many of whom were shouting slogans, and found the cubs had reached the little girl. But instead of the chaos he had feared, he saw something entirely different. Hope had positioned herself between the child and the crowd. Her body language was protective but not aggressive. Brave and Scout flanked them, creating a safe space in the middle of the chaos. The little girl had stopped crying and was staring at Hope with wonder. "Kitties," the girl said, reaching out to touch Hope's fur. Hope made a soft, reassuring sound and pressed closer, letting the child hold on to her. When a protester got too close, accidentally bumping near them, Brave growled low. The man backed away quickly, suddenly aware of the small aliens he had nearly stepped on. Danny reached them just as station security arrived. "Everyone back up," the lead officer ordered. "Give them space." The crowd parted, and Danny saw the little girl's parents fighting their way through. The mother saw the cubs and went pale with fear. "Mira, get away from those things." "No, Mommy, they are nice," the girl protested. "They are keeping me safe." Danny knelt beside the group. "It is okay," he said to the parents. "They will not hurt her. They are just protecting her because she was scared." The father looked skeptical, but the mother knelt down. She could see how gentle Hope was being with her daughter. "Thank you," she said quietly, first to Danny, then to Hope. "Thank you for watching over her," Hope chirped in response. A friendly sound. As the parents gathered their daughter and moved away, the lead security officer approached Danny. "Lieutenant Morris, I am Officer Jake Palmer. I was briefed about your arrival." He looked at the cubs with new appreciation. That was remarkable. Vorath are supposed to be aggressive around strangers. "They know what it is like to be scared," Danny said simply. "They recognized a frightened kid and helped. That is all." The incident had been captured on several personal recording devices. By the time Danny and the cubs reached the Geneva Embassy complex 2 hours later, the video was already spreading on social media. The commentary was mixed. Some people praised the cubs' protective instincts. Others expressed concern about alien juveniles on Earth. But everyone was talking about it. Danny was too busy getting the cubs settled in their new home to pay much attention. The apartment was spacious and well-designed. It had a large common area, 3 human-sized bedrooms, and a specially designed Vorath den for the cubs. Everything Instructor Kayla had recommended was there. "This is home," Danny announced, watching the cubs explore cautiously. "What do you think?" Hope ventured into the den. She sniffed around carefully, then turned back to Danny with a questioning chirp. "Yes, you can sleep in my room if you want," Danny said, understanding her concern. "The den is there if you need your own space, but you do not have to use it if you do not want to." That seemed to satisfy her. The cubs spent the rest of the afternoon investigating every corner of their new home. Brave discovered that the windows had a great view of the city. Scout found a quiet corner behind the couch that he claimed as his own. Hope stayed close to Danny, helping him unpack and organize. That evening, Danny received a message from his new commanding officer requesting a meeting the next morning. He fed the cubs dinner, helped them settle into their nests, and tried to relax. But sleep did not come easily. His mind kept replaying the day, especially the moment in the plaza when Hope had protected that little girl. The cubs had good hearts. They were kind despite their trauma. They protected others even though they were still scared themselves. Danny felt a surge of pride that surprised him with its intensity. These were his kids. His responsibility. His family. When he finally fell asleep, he woke a few hours later to find all 3 cubs had abandoned their nests and piled into his bed. He smiled and went back to sleep, one arm draped protectively over Hope. The next morning, Danny dressed in his uniform. He left the cubs with a staff caretaker, though Hope protested loudly. "I will be back soon," Danny promised. "Just a meeting. Then we will explore the city together." He reported to the office of Commander Lisa Grant. She was a stern-looking woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Lieutenant Morris," Grant said, gesturing to a chair. "Interesting first day on Earth." "Yes, ma'am," Danny replied carefully. "That video of your cubs protecting the child has been viewed 8 million times already. The Public Relations Department is calling it the best coalition propaganda in years." She smiled slightly. "Not exactly how we plan to introduce you to your new role, but effective nonetheless." "I did not do it for publicity, ma'am. I know. That is why it worked. Grant pulled up a file on her screen. Your job, Lieutenant, is to serve as a bridge between human culture and the Vorath. The cubs will be part of that, whether we planned it or not. How you raise them, how they integrate into society, it will all be watched closely. I understand, ma'am. Do you? Grant leaned forward. Because there are people who want this to fail. People who think humans and aliens should remain separate. Every mistake you make, every time those cubs step out of line, it will be magnified and used as ammunition. Danny met her gaze steadily. Then I will not make mistakes, ma'am, and I will teach Hope, Brave, and Scout to handle whatever comes their way. Grant studied him for a long moment. You have confidence. That is good, but confidence without preparation is just arrogance. She slid a data pad across the desk. This is your training schedule. Cultural sensitivity courses, diplomatic protocol, Vorath history and customs. You will attend every session and you will excel. Am I clear? Yes, ma'am. Good. Grant's expression softened slightly. For what it is worth, Morris, I think you did a brave thing. Taking on those cubs, giving them a home. Not many people would do that. They needed someone, Danny said simply. I was there. Well, you are here now, and you have a job to do. Grant stood, signaling the meeting was over. Dismissed, Lieutenant. And Morris, welcome to the embassy. I think you are going to do just fine. Danny left the office feeling both relieved and anxious. He had a lot to learn, a lot to prove, but as he hurried back to the apartment where 3 small aliens were waiting for him, he felt ready for the challenge. When he opened the door, Hope came running. She chirped happily and jumped up, her paws on his chest. Brave and Scout were right behind her. I missed you too. Danny laughed, scratching behind their ears. Now who wants to go explore Geneva? 3 enthusiastic chirps answered him. Danny grabbed their special harnesses designed for Vorath cubs and headed out with his unusual. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Danny settled into a routine that was equal parts challenging and rewarding. His days were filled with diplomatic duties at the embassy. His evenings were spent with training sessions from instructor Kayla through video link. His nights were devoted to helping 3 growing Vorath cubs navigate a world not built for them. The cubs thrived in ways Danny had not dared to hope. Hope showed remarkable intelligence. She learned to understand basic English quickly, and even started communicating with simple word combinations on a translation tablet Kala had sent. Brave lived up to his name, fearlessly exploring their neighborhood and making friends with local children despite their parents' initial worries. Scout was the quiet observer, always watching, always learning, and surprisingly the best at understanding human social cues. But it was not easy. There were difficult moments. There were incidents that tested Danny's patience and resolve. A poorly trained police dog attacked Brave during a walk one afternoon. The cub had been forced to defend himself using his claws and teeth. The dog's owner threatened legal action, shouting about dangerous aliens until security footage showed the dog had been the aggressor. The dog had lunged first. Brave had only protected himself. Hope was denied entry to a public library because of safety concerns. The librarian insisted that animals were not allowed, refusing to understand that Hope was a child, not a pet. Danny had to file a formal complaint with the city. The incident made local news and sparked heated debates about discrimination. Scout suffered nightmares about his parents' death. The young cub would wake in the middle of the night, crying and making distressed sounds that broke Danny's heart. Those nights, Danny would hold Scout close, whispering comfort until the cub fell back asleep. Sometimes it took hours. Sometimes Danny did not sleep at all. Through it all, Danny learned and adapted. He learned patience when Hope stubbornly refused to eat new foods, sitting at the table with her arms crossed until Danny finally gave in and made her favorite meal. He learned firmness when Brave's roughhousing went too far, and he accidentally hurt a human child at the playground. The correction had been necessary but difficult. He learned comfort when Scout needed reassurance at 3 a.m, teaching himself Vorath lullabies that Kayla sent him. He learned to be both guardian and friend, authority figure and safe place to land. He learned that raising children, any children, was the hardest and most important work he had ever done. The cubs learned too. They learned that not all humans were kind, but most were good. They learned that some people would fear them, but others would accept them. They learned that home was not a place but a person, and that person was Danny. On a cold November morning, Danny received unexpected news. Ambassador Zella was coming to Earth for an official visit. She wished to see how the cubs were progressing. Danny spent 3 days in a panic. He cleaned the apartment until it sparkled. He made sure the cubs' grooming was perfect. He rehearsed what he would say. The cubs sensed his stress and became clingy, convinced something bad was about to happen. "It is okay," Danny reassured them over and over. "Ambassador Zella is nice. She just wants to see how you are doing. She cares about you." When Zella arrived at their apartment, she was flanked by embassy security and various officials. Danny stood at attention while the cubs pressed against his legs in their protective formation. But Zella dismissed the others with a wave and entered alone. "HFY Danny Morris," she said formally, "and Hope, Brave, and Scout. I am pleased to see you all again." Hope was the first to approach. She moved cautiously at first, then with growing recognition. She chirped something in Vorath, and Zella responded in the same language. They talked back and forth for several exchanges before Zella looked up at Danny. Her eyes were moist with emotion. "She remembers me," Zella said, "and she says you are a good guardian, that you teach them and protect them and make them feel safe." She paused. "She also says you cry sometimes when you think they are asleep." Danny felt his face heat with embarrassment. "The responsibility is heavy sometimes. I worry about doing things wrong, as you should." Zella knelt down and Brave and Scout approached to join their sister. The ambassador examined each cub carefully. She checked their fur, their teeth, their overall health. She spoke to them in Vorath, asking questions and listening to their responses with careful attention. Finally, she stood. "They are well cared for. More than that, they are loved. You have honored your promise, Lieutenant." "I am trying my best," Danny said. "But there is so much I still do not know, so many ways I could fail them." "Do you know what Hope told me?" Zella asked. "She said that when she is afraid, she remembers that you ran into the fire to save her. She said that if you were brave enough to face death for strangers, she can be brave enough to face anything else." Danny felt his throat get tight. He had not realized Hope thought about that day in such terms. "You are teaching them more than you realize," Zella continued. "You are teaching them courage by showing it every day. You are teaching them kindness by being kind to them. You are teaching them that family is not defined by species or biology, but by choice and love." She placed a paw on his shoulder. "The Vorath High Council asked me to evaluate your guardianship. They wanted to know if this arrangement should continue. I will report that the cubs are exactly where they should be." Relief flooded through Danny like cool water. "Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, HFY Morris. You have given these children something precious. You have given them a future." Zella looked down at the cubs. "And perhaps in doing so, you have given the Coalition something equally valuable. You have given us proof that we are stronger together than apart." After Zella left, Danny sat with the cubs in their common room. Hope climbed into his lap, something she had been doing less as she grew larger and heavier. Brave and Scout settled on either side of him on the couch. "You know I love you three, right?" Danny said softly. "More than I ever thought I could love anyone." Hope looked up at him. She reached for her translation tablet and typed slowly, "Love you too, Papa Danny." It was the first time any of them had called him Papa. The word appeared on the screen in simple letters, but it hit Danny like a physical force. He felt tears sting his eyes. "We will always protect you," Brave added through his own tablet. "Like you protected us." "We are Pack," Scout said simply, his message appearing on his tablet. Danny wrapped his arms around all three of them. "Yeah," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "We are Pack." That evening, as Danny prepared dinner in the kitchen, he received a message on his personal communicator. It was from Elder Voth, the Vorath merchant he had met at the Kepler station 6 months ago. Danny had almost forgotten about him. The message read, "Lieutenant Morris, I wanted you to know that the video of you and the cubs helping that human child started something important. 6 more human guardians have applied to adopt Vorath orphans. 3 Vorath families have applied to adopt human children who lost parents in Coalition service. You showed us all that the bonds of family transcend species. For that, the Vorath people thank you." Danny read the message aloud to the cubs while they ate dinner. Hope listened carefully, her golden eyes focused on his face. When he finished, she looked up at him thoughtfully. "We help others too?" she asked through her tablet. "Like you helped us?" Danny smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Yeah, when you're older, we can help lots of people together." "Good," Hope typed firmly. "Is right thing." After dinner, Danny helped the cubs with their evening routine. Grooming, teeth cleaning, preparing their nests for sleep. It was a familiar dance now, comfortable and warm. When they were finally settled, Danny retreated to his own room. But within minutes, he heard the soft padding of feet. The cubs appeared in his doorway, looking hesitant. "Cannot sleep without you," Scout typed on his tablet. Danny smiled and patted the bed. "Come on then." They piled in with him, finding their favorite spots. Hope under his arm, Brave at his feet. Scout pressed against his side. Danny lay there in the dark, listening to their breathing slow and deepen as they fell asleep. He thought about that day at the Kepler station. The day everything changed. The day he made the split-second decision to run toward danger instead of away from it. He thought about how that single moment of choice had led to this. 3 incredible children who called him Papa. 3 brave souls who taught him daily about courage and resilience and unconditional love. The cubs had changed his life completely. His career path was different now. His daily routine was unrecognizable. His future was uncertain. But as he lay there with Hope's head tucked under his chin and her brothers curled close, Danny realized he would not change a single thing. 6 months ago, security had tried to push the cubs away from him at the station. The cubs had refused. They had chosen him as their guardian. They had followed him all the way to the gate and beyond, all the way to Earth, all the way into his heart, and in return, Danny had chosen them right back. "Thank you," he whispered into the darkness. "Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being mine." Hope stirred slightly and made a soft, contented sound. Brave's tail twitched in his sleep. Scout pressed a little closer. They were pack. They were family. And Danny Morris, guardian and father, knew with absolute certainty that